I feel today like architecture sort of chose me rather than the opposite, Honestly, your degree doesn't mean anything. 90% of what I do today, I didn't learn at school. Wealth is silent, money is loud. If the business that you created can run without you, then you are an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But if it requires you to be there for it to run, you're self-employed. Do you believe? Man, just believe. Get yourself on your knees. It works. It really works. Get yourself on your knees and be serious. Grind.
So today on the podcast, it is my real pleasure to have Mahefa as a guest. Mahefa, welcome and thank you for accepting the invite.
Thank you for having me. I've been a fan of the podcast for a long time. Actually, I've got a lot of friends who came here, and it's a real honor for me to be able to share the platform as well.
Well, that's awesome. As you guys might notice, it's kind of a special episode because we haven't recorded any episode in English since the beginning. Well, I did it once. It's only the second time now. But I'm really glad to do it. Let's get started. Maybe, just start with the basics. Like, if you can introduce yourself, and then from that point on, we'll.
Okay, so my name is Reboza Mahefa. I'm an architect. I am the director of Reboza Mahefa Architecture Workshop, which is a architectural firm and design interior firm that does a lot of projects in residential, hospitality, in office. We're quite fortunate. We involved into different types of stuff to challenge us.
So like, I always wonder, like, when I talk to people, is the job that you're currently doing has always been like a passion of yours, like since you were a little boy, or how did
I get into it?
Get into it, like, yeah.
It's a little bit of I'm even wondering now because I was set to study marine science when I finished matric.
Wow. Okay.
And I had a good mark on the baccalaureate. And I applied for a scholarship back then. And while I was waiting for the scholarship, I didn't even know if it was going to be okay or not. I had to start something, which was marine science, because my father, sort of directed me into that. And I think a few weeks before the final exam of my first year, I got a call saying, "Are you interested in studying architecture in Algeria?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go!" And I think that's how it started. I feel today like architecture sort of chose me rather than the opposite,
Wow.
And I think that it makes it even more special.
Wow.
So that's how it started.
So you get a call from Algeria.
No,
Nigeria. Nigeria or Algeria?
Algeria.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there is an agency for foreign scholarship here.
Okay. Yeah.
And I applied through that.
Okay.
With government's partnership and stuff like that. So I got a call from them, and they organized everything. And well,
how was the transition like between moving from Madagascar to a foreign country? Like,
man, well, it's tough because you're a teenager, obviously that was going to be the first time you leave your parents. You don't know basically anything about life yet, and you're just happy because you're living at the beginning, but when you arrive and you see the challenge in front of you and the 5 years that it's gonna take for you to finish and then move on, damn, that thing is long, especially in a different culture as well, because it's a Muslim country. But I think it was an opportunity for me to have a more open mind, I guess, to an openly different culture. And actually, if I take it even further, I studied in a Muslim country, a more dominantly Muslim country, because there's also other people there, a lot of foreigners from Africa as well, a big community. Shout out to them. Then I started my career in Senegal, which is a French-speaking country. Very professional, very smart people. And from Senegal, going to South Africa, which is a completely different, So I feel like it just enriches me, coming from the east, going to the north, and then going to the west, and then coming back to the south, and then coming back home. All of these episodes, taught me a lot about a lot of things. Maybe we can develop it further afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, because, most of the time when we hear people's stories, like when they get their baccalaureate and they move abroad to study, most of the time they go to Europe. And, well, to be honest, I haven't heard a lot of stories where people, go to, like, for example, Algeria. Or, And so my question would be, like, if there's actually one thing that you learn during this 5 years, like, what do you think it would be? Like, what's the main lesson that you got? Yeah, what was the main lesson that you got? Not on a technical level, but like you, like as a human being.
The main lesson, I think, is legacy. Why? Because, of course, I wish I had gone to a different country. I wish I had the means to do that. I wish I had the choice. But life is what it is, it pulls you into a direction and you face it. And that builds you not only as a technical guy, but also as a man, right? So that is the legacy I received from my parents. Like, okay, we don't have much. This is what we have. You face it and take us to the finish line.
Wow.
And I think, 5 years there, man, it was tough. I mean, there's a lot of people watching here who's going to know exactly what I mean. But, you had to go through fire to be, a jewel. Wow. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, no regret at all.
It hasn't been easy.
Building a legacy.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
It hasn't been easy. It was not supposed to be easy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, I think there are people in this world that also have a misconception about, life in general. Like, some people think that it's supposed to be easy. Well, nobody told you that it's supposed to be easy. I mean, if they did, they'd probably be lying to you.
Of course. Of course.
That's not how it works.
It doesn't work like that. I mean, it depends on people's personality and obviously education, but there's also the self-awareness of what are you exposing yourself to and what does life expose you to. I consider myself fortunate because of these experiences I went through, because those built what I try to build today as well. And it's you capitalize, man. Right. You see the cup half full always.
Wow.
You're privileged.
Yeah. We are privileged. We need to acknowledge that. Yeah.
Of course.
So once you finish your 5th year in Algeria, how did you get that job in Senegal? How does it work? Like, did you apply on LinkedIn, or did you get a random call from someone saying, "Hey man, we're looking for an architect here in Senegal. Are you willing to come?"
Well, the thing is, I was lucky enough to have an aunt in Senegal.
Okay.
She was working there.
Okay.
So I don't know. I can't remember how many times I visited them because it was closer and cheaper than to come back to Madagascar. So during the 5 years, I had the opportunity to, stay in Senegal for 3 months every 2 years or something like that.
Okay.
So at the end of the 5 years, I went there, and at the time, Senegal was in a phase where, they were building a lot, and I was graduated. So, I tried it. It was actually like a first experience thing. And then you realize, of course, as you start working, you're given the basic task, basically mimicking what you've learned, and you don't have an idea on how to manage stuff. You just do, whatever is told to do, and it's entering into the work environment, the discipline of a company, having colleagues, seeing all the dynamics that's involved into working. That was my first experience. And to have that in a very advanced country, with very smart people, man, that was cool.
That's cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd like to ask you, because I think a lot of young people that graduate, when they get that diploma into their hands, of course the first thing that they'll be thinking about is, how do I get my first job? And based on your experience and what you've been through, do you have like any advice that you could share to them on how they could actually improve their chances of getting the first job? Because the thing is, I guess when you were studying architecture, you weren't the only one in your class. You guys were probably like dozens, if not hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And like, how do you differentiate yourself, on the job market for that first job?
Be willing to get your hands dirty. Honestly, your degree doesn't mean anything, because it's a small portion of what you should know, especially in the professional world. Everything happens outside of school. That's how you really test it, Today, I can say that because I've seen it, and I've taken a distance, and I've analyzed it, that 90% of what I do today, I didn't learn at school. So, spoiler alert.
Wow.
Good to have a degree, but that's only a small part of it.
Wow.
So my advice, again, of course, you spent 5 years, 3 years learning, but be willing to learn again, even more. When you start a new job in a new company, it has a culture, it has a way of doing things, it has a system. Maybe we'll elaborate on that after, in a bit. But there's so much stuff that you didn't see while you were studying that it's happening now. And not only that, today you must be accountable because people are paying you to do something.
Wow. Yeah.
Back there, well, if you study, exam comes, you're fine. If you don't study, you're screwed. Easy. It's a zero-sum game, But now, you're legally bound. You're financially bound. You have responsibility towards yourself, the firm, maybe your family. And it's a completely different thing. So you have to keep learning.
Wow.
The degree doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, it gets you where you want to, maybe, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah, it just gets you started.
Oh yeah, that's the start of the process only, unfortunately.
Wow. in that's it has always been like, something else. How come the schools and universities, institute, whatever you name it, that are supposed to get us ready for the professional world, actually, don't they just don't. They don't meet like the standards that the professional environment is expecting from us. So it has always surprised me.
Well, in in a logical way, your educative system should be connecting to your job system, right? And everything is based on context. What do we need today? As a sector, as an industry, as a country, you name it. But it's always starting from a clear analysis of what the need, and then goes back to how do we get there. So today, what is the job sector look like? What do they need? What are the new stuff that you have to, master? Then back from there, you reverse engineer it into a school program, right? Mm-hmm. Tailor fitted to exactly what that job is going to be. And not forgetting that this thing is evolving, right? So your school system at the same time needs to follow suit, like also needs to be evolving. Yeah. And for us, that process is still a challenge, Yeah. So that's why you see, for instance, when I look at the general economy situation where we're in, right? Our economy is based more on the, how do we say that? The primary sector, right? Yeah. Agriculture, you name it. Yeah. 90% of the schools are teaching tertiary sector stuff, marketing.
Wow, that's true.
Management, So what are you going to manage?
Wow.
I mean, it's just common sense,
Yeah, it is.
You're starting something, but you know that the end game is based on something different. So what are you going to market on? What are you going to manage? So there is the,
we need to work on it.
Discrepancy.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, man. It's a nice challenge to work on, I guess.
I'm wondering, like when you were the new guy in the professional world, were you kind of, shy, or were you how were you and have you since felt that you've changed in some ways?
Oh yeah, of course, man. I mean, when you come out of school, you understand pretty quickly that, man, I need to, upskill myself, because it's wild out here. It's not as if, I was, that guy in school, and then I'm going to be that guy in the profession. So you always have to adapt. And adaptation actually is a measure of intelligence.
Wow. Okay.
So if it doesn't work, if you try it again exactly the same way, it's not going to work. You'll have to trick something, change something. So you'll have to, and as you grow as a person, as a professional, me, I saw it because I came from, one culture to another culture, and then the South African culture, English speaking culture, man, those guys are professionals, and they're smart, they're sharp, and I've met sharp people out there, and you sort of judge yourself against them, where am I in this thing, what do I still need to work on? Because man, my game is, second division.
But I mean, do you feel like your game is on the second division, because on the technical part, or is it the soft skills?
I mean, both, because it's different. Yeah.
Wow.
The technical part, in South Africa, everything is so advanced already, everything is very professional. So you come into that environment, coming from an environment that was a bit lesser, professional than that, then you realize, okay, I'm lacking a lot of things, and how can I improve it? Not only that, but I used to work in a French environment setup, and now it's an English environment setup, and damn, you'll have to learn everything all over again, and your technical terms.
Wow, yeah.
Way of building, way of communicating. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean,
that's true.
Man,
that's true.
Challenge was amazing.
But when you moved from Senegal to South Africa, were you already, fluent in English, or did you just
No. Well, actually I came back here.
Okay.
And then I joined le conseil, l'ordre des architectes malgaches in 2014. Then I went to Cape Town, South Africa. So I had to start, improving my English skills. Obviously, learning and working and being forced to use it helps a lot. And but that's just the tip of the iceberg, because the law is different. The building regulations are different. The softwares they use are different.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
So
that must be painful to learn all that from start.
It's not from start. It's not as if I have a second architecture degree, but to be adapted into a English-speaking work environment. Oh yeah, that was a nice challenge.
So how does it work in the architectural world? Like, what are the different roles in a company? Like when you started in Senegal, like what was your job, and then when you moved to South Africa, like was it the same or was it a different job? I don't really know how it works.
Well, generally when you start, you obviously you have to earn your ranks up. So you start at the bottom, and you're gonna be the junior guy. You do the the labor work.
Okay.
So you just in front of your computer, you draw. Yeah. You don't even get to design because you receive something from your boss.
Okay.
Just drew this. If you have any questions, come to me, chat about it. But basically you do the labor job.
Okay.
And as you prove yourself to be serious and reliable, then you can pretend to, build up from there, to have a moment, not managerial, obviously, but, you can manage your own team, having a more managerial role into the technical side. So basically you go from junior architect and you build up onto senior architect.
Okay.
But basically in South Africa, you sometimes you're even candidate architect if you're not registered yet as a professional architect. There's like an exam for you to be registered, etc. But in terms of years, you have the junior years, you have the senior years. If everything goes well, maybe you would become a director and then maybe a partner.
Okay.
And, as you, you go up.
So like how long were you in South Africa back then?
So I arrived in end of 2015, I think. And I spent 7 years in Cape Town.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
I spent 7 years in Cape Town, and in 2022, I packed my bags and decided to go back home.
Okay. So before we talk about you coming back to Madagascar, like, how was life there? Because at that time, you've seen Madagascar, Algeria, Senegal, and now Cape Town in South Africa. Like, how was life?
Cape Town is the most beautiful city in Africa, hands down.
Wow.
That city is beautiful. If you guys haven't been there, book your flight.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Really?
Scenery, it's, rather check it out online. I mean, Cape Town has been elected best destination multiple times.
Okay. So that speaks for itself.
Oh man. The University of Cape Town is the greatest university in Africa. They've got wine farms. The oldest wine farm in Africa is in Cape Town.
It's in Cape Town.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful.
So quality of life is
amazing.
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 Really.
Amazing.
Wow. Once you get used, we human. So once you're in an environment, you adapt, of course, and because that's what we do to, So you adapt yourself to this amazing environment, and then you tell me 2022.
Why?
What happened? Why live a place where you feel good, great environment? I guess the job was okay as well. Why leave and come back?
Because I know I bring more difference here than there. That was the main reason. I felt like I've reached my full potential there.
Okay.
Because of some social issues. Unfortunately, you have like a glass ceiling where, you know, that's where you're gonna finish your career. So I felt like, you know, through all the years of learning, I felt like time was up for me to bring whatever I've learned into this country.
Wow.
So I had to, well, obviously there were projects that helped it being easier, the transition being easier, but that was the main difference. Like, okay, what is the state of architecture in my country? What is the building industry like? What are the challenges we're facing? What are the, you know, the lack of regulation that we have here, the mess that we have here? So how can I, from whatever little I've learned, can come and participate into rebuilding the industry, you know, creating value for people, creating value for companies, creating value for the country, for places, for communities. And when you, of course, I miss the sushi in Cape Town. I mean, you know, when you compare your comfort and, you know, the life that you've had there and the life that you might have here, you know, the choice is easy, but you have to think it beyond that, you know. Not everyone can think like that, but you have to think beyond your own comfort and how you, as a privileged guy to have experienced all of that, can share that back with those who might have not had your privilege.
That's awesome.
So that's the difference.
That's different.
And when you think it like that,
so like, just to make sure I understand the situation before you came back here, you were salaried. I mean,
I was an employee.
You were an employee in South Africa. You got like a monthly revenue.
Yes.
And then when you came back here, you decided to go on your own and launch your company. Is that right?
Yes, I was an employee there. I used to work for a firm who had my director had a double license.
Okay.
So he could practice in South Africa and in Australia, right?
Wow. Okay, amazing.
So there were lots of residential projects on the Queensland area in Australia, and in the Western Cape in South Africa. And 2020, COVID happened, obviously, and business slowed down a lot everywhere actually. Yeah. And it never really recovered up until like 4 or 5 years later on. So the situation being sluggish, on my own, I started thinking about coming back in 2021, right? And I got an opportunity to design a house here. Okay. While I was there. Okay. Damn, the challenge was interesting. I hadn't, the luck that I had, I guess, was that I'm used to how to bring professionalism into building process. So first of all, we had to do the land survey. I think the guy who did the land survey was surprised because I wanted the height of the trees, the height of the windows of the guy next door, the height of the roof, because I needed to understand. I needed him to be my eyes. Okay. So the level of detail I required from him was a lot. Okay. And based on that, because we had drone flying, we had lots of videos, lots of photographs. And I remember it was like travel restriction back then. You couldn't fly in. Yeah. So the guy was my eyes on site, and that allowed me to really understand, what's the site like in the morning as you wake up. Yeah. sunrise, sunset time, during the day, how are the shadows work, who can see what from where. A really understanding of a deep analysis of the site, right? I think I was also the, I don't know, man, but this is sort of a match, because the client is an English speaking family, right?
Wow. Okay.
So the fact that I was in South Africa made it very easy for them to sort of convey what they want, the lifestyle they want. I understood it because that's what we do there, indoor, outdoor spaces, no boundaries, no, big openings, literally, contemporary architecture. So, it took just 2 or 3 meetings, I guess, and the vibe was on. And actually, they became our friends today. That's the best type of client that we wish for. I won't mention who that is, but they will recognize themselves.
Wow, that's awesome.
But that helped a lot in the transition. Like, you can see the project growing, and the feedbacks and redesign, and the feedbacks and the redesign, and as it evolves, we took the decision, we can source a few things from South Africa, but we need to make sure the logistic is right to, people. And obviously, during my years there, I've got a little bit of a network on who to call if I want that. So I was the architect, but at the same time, I sort of was the advisor on the logistics, and I was the designer, and I was this, and I was that. So it's sort of it was a complete package, and it facilitated a lot of things.
Okay.
And the trust was built, communication was great, and now arrives the time we're supposed to start building. Then we've invested this much time into documenting and designing. I can't just leave the building, process to somebody else who doesn't understand what sort of effort we've put into it. So I had to make a decision. Either I'm gonna stay there and risk this very beautiful and first project going south, or do I pack my bags, leave this great sushi place city and come back here? And I chose the dive. I came back. And I think that project today, we can't wait to actually photograph it, because, man, that house, I think it's one of the most beautiful houses in this country.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I wish we had the photos already, but we're still planning on to.
That's amazing.
Furnishing everything and
so like the main building is already built.
Oh yeah, everything. They live there now.
Wow. Oh really? Yeah. Okay. Wow, that is awesome. But then you've decided to, I think that your approach, your position as a, like, I'd say, a premium architect, there are specific type of projects that interest you more than others, I guess. You tell me if I'm incorrect, but when you came to Madagascar and you started to offer your services, like, how do you make people understand that having an architect is something that is actually, important? Because, people think, well, why don't I just go to Pinterest and then I get a picture and I tell my my mason to just build a thing from the ground up.
Sure.
How do you justify the service that you provide, the value that you bring when you talk to people, to prospects?
The main argument, first of all, is building is expensive, right? If it was like a 10,000 Harari, or let's say even $1 million Harari investment, do it yourself, because the risk is smaller.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about the hundreds of millions or the billions, Harari,
it's
better have a professional with you, because if something goes wrong, you're screwed, right? So I naturally am somebody who entrusts people's intelligence,
Okay.
even if sometimes I'm wrong. You sort of entrust that, but at the same time, you make sure they understand the value of what they're about to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're explaining to them, okay, if you have this much investment to do, it's exactly the same situation where if you need the surgery,
Mm-hmm.
you don't go to the meat vendor, you go to a surgeon.
Yeah.
So why? It depends on the value you put on yourself and maybe your investment, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for a rational person, you know, it's a known decision. It's not even a question. Like, I have this much money to invest into a property building.
Mm-hmm.
This is the timeline that I have. These are the constraints for my bank. These are the professionals that I need to hire.
Mm-hmm.
This is the process going to take as a timeline. I don't know all of this. Maybe I'm a doctor. Maybe I studied something else. So let me rather just go and find somebody who knows better. And that's how you call professional. And that's how you secure investment. So if you don't have that mindset yet, maybe it's not we are not the right person to work with you. But if you understand the importance of that, let's have a coffee. Let's talk.
So I have a question. Let's say, for example,
Sure.
tomorrow I want to start building my future house, premium house, contemporary design, from your experience,
Sure.
from what you've seen, what would be, let's say, the average price per meter when you build a house, so that we can understand, for example, I have a dream, I want to build that house and everything, but I have no clue how much I might need to put aside to make that dream come true.
Yeah.
So from what you've seen, what would be the average or at least the decent,
So basically you have 3 factors. That's how we work, actually. First of all, we need to define the project, right? What do you need? And are you a family of one? Are you a bachelor? Do you have kids? Do you have guests often? How do you live? Based on your needs, we try to define your project. Okay, what do you think of this, right? Then it comes down to a square footage, square meterage, actually, here in Madagascar. So that total square meterage, that's your first parameter, right? Your second parameter is the sort of level of design you want the house to be, right? Are we talking about a standard one, just walls and roofs, basically standard stuff? Pretty nice, can be interesting. Or are we talking about a project that, you want something nice, you've traveled, you've seen what's going on out there, and you want more or less the same thing, same level of, finish and stuff like that. So that defines how much ariary per square meter you're willing to spend, right?
Okay.
And those two, the square meterage and your ariary per square meter, gives you your initial budget.
Okay.
So we do that for you for free, right?
Wow.
To make sure that you understand everything you need to understand,
Okay.
and you make a decision. Are you okay with the initial projection of the total cost? If okay, then we give you a proposal of let's work together. If not, do we still have a margin? So if we have a margin, do we add a wine cave, or do we have a cinema room, or a fitness sauna, whatever? Or do we increase the ratio? My kitchen is gonna come from Italy, gonna use marble here, we're gonna use beautiful timber flooring there.
Wow.
So that's how you define your project at the beginning.
Yeah.
Once everything is set, then the design process can start. But the figures are, based on experience and also your inflation rate.
Yeah.
So basically building something 5 years ago is definitely not the same thing today. Unfortunately, we're not producing much in the country in terms of building, materials. So you have to import everything, which is impacted by the level of the currency, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into a pricing, but it depends on the timing. It depends on what you want. It depends on where you're building, actually, because building something in Tana is not the same thing as building in Nusibe, for instance. So all of those things need to be factored in. And then you have like a rough estimate at the beginning and you sense it, Are we okay with that? Are we not ready yet? Then you decide.
Are there people that, come to you and just say like, what, Mahefa, there's no limits. The only limit is your imagination. Like, does this kind of client exist?
I wish. I wish, guys, my number. If you're out there, don't hesitate. But the thing is, it's not only about money, especially when it comes to building, because there is a level of personality as well, and maybe I'm going to be a little bit controversial to explain this, but it's fine. There's a guy, as an example, that wants to be perceived by community as if they made it. So maybe they want everything to be shiny, all the marbles and the handles, the door handles, all of your tapwares must be shining and, beautiful chandelier that, dominates the whole, like you made it,
right.
And it's a personality thing. It's fine. It's fine to be like that. They're also the more calmer one, I have nothing to prove. I have taste, you're just coming to the space, that you know exactly who I am,
Yeah, you
I don't
feel
need
it
to
right away.
Exactly. Like the calm, luxury, the quiet stuff, You look at the chair, it's a $10,000 chair. It's like, you understand. You don't, generally there's a saying in English, like, wealth is silent, money is loud.
Damn.
Wow,
that's
it's
powerful.
different.
That's powerful.
It's different, I promise you. So
wow,
it really depends on what the client wants.
You mentioned something that I was just recently thinking about is what's the psychology behind, someone choosing the furniture. They say tomorrow I'll be buying furniture for my home, for my new home.
Yeah.
How, even if I have money, there's something I don't understand. Like, how can I? Now, in my example, I'm not saying I have, but let's pretend that I have. How can I justify to myself that, just like you said, this chair costs $10K? But $10K, like it.
Do you want to put that in a chair?
It builds you not a small room. I don't know. You can buy a used car, whatever. I mean,
I think, the Maslow pyramid.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
As you build up onto it, at some point you're like, man, I know the value of my watch because it sort of matches the value of my time.
Wow.
That kind of state of mind,
Yeah.
So physical stuff becomes like, that's not where I want to be. I'm sort of, I've passed that already. So that's how you understand how people are valuing things.
Wow.
You have also the ones that wants to pretend, the show offs,
Yeah.
Like they want to make sure you notice that.
Yeah.
But why? So it's a very psychological game, and people are playing.
Wow, that's awesome. You said just earlier that you will do the first how do you call it? It's not the offer, but like
it's like the definition of the project.
We do it for free.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're saying for sure. Like for you, it's natural. Like for you, it just makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but could you explain to us like? What's the process? Because let's say, for example, you get like, I don't know, like 10 people a month who like require, your services.
Yeah.
But then like today, for example, out of these 10 people, like let's say you get one client out
Yeah.
of these 10 people, like, do you feel like it justifies the effort that you've put in the work for the other 9 people?
First of all, I'm an detail obsessed guy.
Okay.
And I have my own way of scheduling my time, you know. Generally, in the morning before 11, only a handful of people can reach me on the phone because I put myself on do not disturb mode. That's how I feel. My brain is really,
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
at full capacity. And then as I slow down into lunch, I, you know, start looking at emails, maybe starting calling people back, you know, hundreds of, you know, tens of missed calls, messages. So, and the afternoon, it's more, all the meeting happens. That's where the meeting happens. And every time I meet somebody, well, they're gonna know because I never meet anybody in the morning. That's my time, right?
Okay.
Unless, obviously, it's somebody who I can't say no to.
Yeah.
And I have to. So meetings are in the afternoons. And, you know, the first contact, you feel the vibe. Like, where is the site? What sort of project it is? What sort of value it can potentially create for us? Mm-hmm. And that drives the conversation. Because it's literally knowing each other, like what do you have in mind and how can we help you? Because you've made the effort to reach to us. So the least thing that we can do is, you know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour meeting, just to understand each other and for us to explain how we work. Mm-hmm. And if we try to make them aware of the different parameters they need to consider going into this project. So the value of that afterwards builds the foundation of the trust that's going to be required if we want to move together forward, right? Mm. And that's why we call it literally an investment onto your project already, even if we haven't signed anything yet. And it makes everyone comfortable. It's a very, I don't know, but I just tried it. It worked, and there's no reason for us to change it, man.
What I find interesting is that on the psychology level, is you give 20, 30, maybe an hour of your time to someone. Somehow, I think they might feel like, you know, they kind of have a moral debt to you because you've given your time to them, you know. So when, for example, let's say you're famous, okay, you go to a restaurant, okay, you just buy a drink.
I'm not famous, anyway. Well, hypothetically,
okay. All right. Let's say you go to a restaurant, okay, you buy a juice, for example, okay. But then the general manager, he recognizes you.
Yes.
Okay. So that you know what? It's on us, man. It's on us. Okay. Either let's say, for example, you like to post things on Instagram.
Sure. Yeah.
You will feel like you have to because you know they've been kind to you.
All right.
So and that's the way I kind of see like what. I'm not saying that's what.
I see what you mean.
But I think that if I was a potential client and I was interested in your services. I would feel like I do my best to make sure that this project happens because you've given me valuable part of your valuable time, you know.
Well, here is the thing, right? I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, but it is knowledge, right? Knowledge being immaterial is multiplied when it's shared. It's not as if it's a material thing. Like I have a bread cut in half, give you one, give you one half. I keep you one half. It leaves me with one half, right? Whereas knowledge, when I share it with you, mine doesn't decrease, but the knowledge increases. And I think of it like that because
Wow.
it's such a huge investment in a one lifetime, because people are putting their whole economy into, their savings into building a project, and they literally searched online. Well, first of all, there isn't a lot of people that comes to the need to call an architect, unfortunately, yet.
Yeah.
So you have a person who has reached that, right? Goes online, finds the right one, calls one or two or three, and calls us. And that effort of them going through, for us, it's meaningful already, because not only they want to know, but also they want to know to where their project can go.
Okay.
And it's literally an investment, you know?
I see.
On top of that, in terms of the time, like I said, I'm a very detailed guy. And there is a book by Tiago Forte. The title is Building a Second Brain, right? We try to build a second brain at the office. So everything that does not require your brain to work, in brackets, needs to be managed by either technology or your system. So for instance, I asked my colleague to find me a file about one stage of the project that we did in Nusibe 2 years ago. In less than 10 seconds, they know exactly where to find it. Because the system is so in place that, at our office, you will never find like a screen with all of these folders and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Like you're struggling to find your own thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that second brain allows me to gain some time to do more.
I see.
I promise you, if you haven't read that book yet, dude,
But I've heard
have
of
a
it.
go at it. Oh,
I've heard
really?
of it because there's a YouTuber. He's called Ali Abdal, and
My wife loves it.
yeah, he's like into
Yeah.
productivity is the stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I've heard him talk about this book.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so my question is, how did you come up to, you came back to Madagascar, and
Sure.
did it just occur to you straight away that you had to build this system, or is it through experience and hard learned lessons
Yeah.
that you came with the idea of, what, maybe it's time to, upgrade the way we work and put into place this system so that,
I think, now that I'm, sort of, I always had, for a very long time, since I started working, because I've been part of offices who had systems, and I've been part of offices who didn't have systems.
okay.
Damn, man. Oh, it's night and day, I promise. So for me, the first thing, because when I decided that I really wanted to build something, I started with the system. You need to understand, and that is the stuff that we didn't study in an architectural school, the business side of things, because you need to know how to price an intangible product correctly for people to come to you and ask for it, right? Design, which is, it's something you don't sense, rather than something you touch or whatever. It don't see it, and you don't know it before it's delivered, right? But you're asking people to sign a contract based what you will still have to produce, right?
Yeah.
Yourself, you don't even know the design yet. It comes up as you go.
Yeah.
So that business side of things, I really had to understand how I can transform the skills, the technical skills, and transform it into a product that can bring value to people's projects.
You talked about pricing, and I think pricing is like one of them.
Yeah.
The thing that the new entrepreneurs struggle the most with. because it is, there are different ways to look at it. You can either think like, okay, here is the lowest on the market, here is the
highest,
the highest
market,
one.
Yeah.
I just go in between, and they'll just fall in the middle range.
Yeah.
But you can also think another way, like for example, okay, I know that to produce, let's say this thing, this object, I need to invest 1,000 RRE into labor, 1,000 RRE for the printing, and you just go like, okay, maybe I'll just 3x it, I'll just times it by 3, and then that would be my final price. What was your process behind all it? Do you have something in place where okay, approximately that will cost that much, or is it because I know that when people come to you, they have specific needs, of course.
For sure,
nobody has the same needs as I do, as you do, but do you have like an Excel file, for example, when you inserted the data and then a price comes out, and then you used to go like, okay, that sounds about good, and then I'll go with it. Well, how do you do it?
I think, well, for us, it depends on. It always relates to the initial estimation thing, right?
Okay.
The more value we bring to the project, because we have different set of offers, like do you want us to do architecture or architecture interior design, or do you want us just to do the interior design? So for there, the client chooses, right? On top of that, we're not gonna bill you the same if you build like 3-bedroom house versus as if you build like a 5-star hotel. Obviously, there's a proportionality that comes into play. Okay. So it's really related to the value that you bring to your project and how you value our expertise.
Okay.
So just to come back to the entrepreneurship thing and the system, there is a beautiful metaphor in buildings. Like, let's take this house, right? The reason why we feel secure, we can use the house is because your foundations are nice, right?
Yeah.
Very, very solid, and that can support a lot of things. And, that's you experiencing, you're not even thinking about it. Systems, at least for us, is exactly the same. And that's your foundation.
Wow.
And the most important part of the building is the part that you don't see. And it's exactly the same thing in our firm. Like, the most important part that sustains the firm are the stuff that people don't see, that happens behind the scenes.
And do you have in your company, do you have a clear process of, okay, from the moment we sign a new client, okay, here is its journey through the whole project, the onboarding process. Of course, do you send, I don't know, how often do you send updates to the client? All this, do you have that like written somewhere? Like, you have like the arrows and squares, and it says, okay, you go like this, and then like this, and then like this. And if you have one, was it hard to teach it to your colleagues at the office? Because you're the owner of the company, you're the boss, so you have it in your mind. You know what you're looking for. But it's different because, maybe your colleagues, they haven't thought about it much, and they haven't learned about it during their career. So,
absolutely. I think, again, it comes back to the process. The way we do recruitment, for instance, right? Once you start, your first weeks, you don't do anything but just learning the system.
Wow. Okay.
Like, we literally introducing you to a new way of thinking, of working, and of having fun.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Because the person is going to spend more time with us than with their families. So rather have an environment where, people want to come and feel comfortable. We're still working on it. There's still a lot of challenges, but I think the right mindset is there. So the first weeks, it's literally learning again, because the level of detail and the level of how can I say that, the
Expectation?
standards
Yeah,
that we set is so high, and people, if they haven't had other experience than here, don't necessarily understand. So we need to make them aware of the value on why we should have these higher standards, because these are the kind of products that we bring to our clients. So the level of quality is proportional to the level of standards that we set. And you're given a salary at the end of the first month, but you haven't done anything but learning and understanding. And for me, it's like we're literally in a process of recruiting at the moment.
Okay.
So they will know what to expect in April.
Yeah.
But it's not as if it's gonna be chilled, but we can sense that it makes them want to be part of something different, because it's a culture thing, That's the culture at the office. We try to speak English.
Really?
All the system is in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All the system is in English. We upskilling stuff are in English. All the courses, basically 90% of the system are in English. The books are in English. So, and that's a choice.
Why?
Because we want to build beyond Madagascar in 2030. And if you stay with only French, man, you're not going to go far. That's why we force ourselves to be English speaking architectural firm.
Wow.
It just opens as more doors than just being. So that is not new information. We've said it since the beginning, like 2022. And there was a conference called 24 Chaos, and like 24 hours straight, different parts of the world participates. And I think that was the first, that was the first time we said it publicly, like, okay, there's a lot of architects who builds in Madagascar from abroad. Man, 2030, we're building there as well. So, yeah, that's the vision.
That's the vision.
How do we make it happen? We grind.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said you were in the process of recruiting.
Yeah.
Has it been a challenge for you to hire new staff? Or has it been pretty easy since you started?
Man, it's tough. Jeez, man. It's tough. It's tough. It's to find, well, there's so many parameters that you consider, obviously, but the technical side first, it's tough. Especially if you try to push the boundaries of what's possible in design, in structure, and stuff like that. People don't necessarily, think it's possible.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a story, and this is literally how we work.
Okay.
If we meet an engineer on a specific project and we present the project, basically the design that we validated with a client and stuff like that, we present the project knowing that we've done it before, we've seen it being done. And when we present it, the guy says, it's possible. Like, damn, you haven't even tried. How can you say it? I mean, we're not crazy. Like, we've seen it work.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about? If the person says that, that's the last time we're meeting them.
Okay.
Because we're not interested in people who don't want to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And we're not wasting our time with people like that, unfortunately. Because, I mean, you haven't even tried.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, it's Vito. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Wow. Okay. But I'm wondering, like, here in Madagascar, do we teach architecture at university? I mean, is there a place where people can learn about it?
No, there's no school that teaches architecture here.
Okay. That's sad.
Well, currently I'm part of the National Council of L'Ordre des Architectes, and starting a new school is one of our long-term goals.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of talking going on at the moment into that direction, and I hope it's gonna come to fruition very soon. But we need one, definitely. It's an industry that creates so much value in the economy that we cannot let it to funny schools to to address. Sorry, but
no worries. I mean, just say the things just the way they are. But
it is what it is, man. It's a shame.
so you've been an active entrepreneur for now 3 years, approximately.
Yeah.
What was the hardest lesson that you learned during this time? Because being an entrepreneur is tough. It's not easy. I mean, a lot of people, they like to tell others that, it is the way to go. It is, the 4 hours a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But no, it's really hard. I'm sure that you've had nights where you couldn't find sleep because, you were facing challenges that, were hard to face. What can you tell us about it?
There is a difference between being an entrepreneur and being self-employed. Tricky.
Yeah.
If the business that you created can run without you, then you are an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But if it requires you to be there for it to run, you're self-employed. You're earning good money, whatever the case might be. Yeah. But if you leave, that thing shuts down, which means your system cannot sustain your business. And for me, that's my goal. I love architecture. I love, what we do to death. I think we bring value to a lot of things. But I need the system to be working without me. And that's tough. Because you need the culture, you need the design traits, you need the way of managing things. And it's literally a process of understanding how it works. And, can I leave it to a director, a CEO to run? And I'm just going to take a step back and maybe try to do something else again. But there lays the difference. What are you doing? Are you, taking a cut for yourself at the end of every 3 months because you've built it and it works? Or, you can do other stuff. You can literally allocate your time to try other stuff and not necessarily focusing on the business because you've built a working system. So it's challenging. It's really challenging. On top of that, especially coming from a technical background, man, you need to know how your taxes work, how your HR work, how you need to be emotionally intelligent to communicate with people. You need to manage clients. You need to sell your services. You need to strategize. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah. And I think it comes to my mind. There are, I can see that in the big corporations that we have locally, right? Yeah. So the CEOs are at a strategic level. Yeah. So they do the thinking and they have people running the operational, right?
Yeah.
So they can see further, like 20 years from now, what are we going to do? But you do the thinking, the strategy, and at the same time, you have to make this thing work. Man, it's heavy. It's challenging. It's challenging.
Yeah, une fois, je disais que t'as la tête dans le guidon. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that it's hard to accomplish, but I think once you get that right, I'm sure it takes you to a whole other level. Like
yeah. And one of the trick, I guess, is rest. Even though you have a lot of responsibilities and the environment is very taxing, take the time to rest, because we cannot pour from an empty cup.
Wow. Wow.
Make sure.
Well said. Well said.
Oh
yeah.
Make sure you're ready, refilled.
Yeah.
If you need 10 days, get out of the game. Take it easy. Refill, and then come back and grind again.
Okay, but let's be honest. Like,
Yeah.
Is it easy for you to just like unplug the whole thing and then just like take 10 days off? Because
Oh my gosh. You can never. Well, for now, there are times when during the weekends,
Yeah.
I never reply to work stuff. Never.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
Somebody calls, I don't give a damn who that is.
Yeah.
Man, the weekend is the weekend.
Okay, that's
It's
cool.
just a matter of putting respect
Yeah.
onto how people work, right?
Okay.
First thing on Monday, I give you a call back. No worries.
Yeah.
But my weekends, my holidays, I'm gonna watch that thing ring. I'm not gonna answer that.
Wow.
Oh no.
Oh, that's awesome.
No. You literally have to set aside the time for you to recharge. Otherwise you're burnt out easy in this country.
Wow.
You can't, and you have to pick your fights.
Mm-hmm.
Be smart and pick your fights.
Mm-hmm.
So where am I going to make the difference here today? Am I going to solve that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going this direction. Pick your fights and strategize.
Okay. Wow. So you've seen a lot in terms of working in the architecture field. What are, let's say, I won't say the most important, but like, what are 2 projects that you really enjoyed working on? That doesn't matter the size of the project, but like, what did you really enjoy doing?
Man, that first project we had to do here in 2021, 22,
That one really.
hands down.
Yeah.
It's our flagship project.
Wow.
Well, I literally can't wait for the pictures to be out, but damn,
It's
man,
got me up to like, I'm like, what? Wow, really?
It's our flagship project.
Wow.
It's a beautiful designed house. We were lucky enough to have clients who understand the value of things as well. They don't want to fill the house with bits and bobs. It's literally handpicked, very cool. So because also it was a first big one with all the challenges, the risk and the reward that came with it, that project put us on the map. And, we hold it dearly, except from that, from a level of complexity, working at the airport, with 10, 12 different consultants and suppliers.
Yeah.
Man, it's coordinate all of that. The level of security, the fire management system, the plumbing, all of the electrical, and that was a nice challenge too.
Well, yeah.
But we have a saying in the firm that goes, the best project is the next one, because it's gonna bring you a new set of challenges and constraints that will allow your brain to be elastic again and rethink.
Do you have a system into place when it comes to getting clients? Like, do you do like marketing outbound or inbound or whatever? How do you do it?
Well, generally, social media helps, obviously.
Yeah.
Social media helps, and other than that, it's the same profile of clients are also visiting each other and they talk to each other, and it also helps. Like, okay, we did this project with these guys, they're professional, and we recommend it. And actually, it reminds me of something. A lesson that I have learned, like in business, you have to have a coach, right? Like as if you go into a fitness club, right? That shows you, has experience and shows you how to do, this or that. a mentor, maybe not necessarily in the same industry as you, but who've done great, and from which you can draw wisdom and knowledge from. Like, can call them anytime and they'll tell you, okay, this is my advice or whatever. And then a sponsor, somebody who might be in a meeting room with a lot of other people where you're not, but recommends you because of what you've done for them.
Wow.
So, man, to try to have those three is, I think, a key to success.
Wow.
Because you can't make mistakes. I mean, you're gonna make mistakes, but at least you know where to ask if you're stuck, or if you face challenges, or a new situation, or like you just asked, find new clients.
Have you identified these three people?
I'm fortunate enough to have those three.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We're about to finish our discussion, but I still have a few remaining questions for you. You've received, you've been awarded as an architect.
Yeah.
Can you just summarize what's the award about, and was there before the award and then an after?
Yes. Well, basically, it's the award is the International Property Awards, which is divided in a lot of regions in the world, and we managed to win the African Arabia Single Residential Award in 2023-2024, and it's for the project that we're doing with Ivana in Nosfal. It's a single residential project, and it's humbling, because we've been on the game for just a few years, and at my wildest dreams, never I had hoped to receive something that major that soon. I knew it would happen because I know exactly what I'm putting into this. But that soon, no. We didn't expect that. But what I tell my colleagues is that don't get used to acclamations, because that's the most interesting part is your process, not the destination. So it's encouraging to receive things that prove that you're doing the right stuff, right? But if you're getting stuck onto that and you're like displaying it everywhere, like, yeah, I'm an award winner, blah, 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 that was yesterday. What about today?
Wow.
So that was good, but on to the next one.
My final question, I guess, would be, looking back at where you started and where you're at now, if you had any advice that you'd like to share to your younger self, what would that be?
To believe. Man, just believe, because people believed in me. And people prayed for me. I was serious about what I wanted to do. I put everything I had into it. And I'm fortunate enough that it came up this way. So believe, get yourself on your knees. It works. It really works. Get yourself on your knees and be serious. Grind. The sleepless nights, the extra hours, the critiques, the acclamations, it's part of the game. And most importantly, never stop learning.
No.
Be a student. There's a lot of things going on out there, and knowledge is at your fingertips. You can listen to audiobooks, you can, learn it on YouTube. It's accessible. but be a student, because the moment you stop, the world doesn't stop. You left behind. And that's why I have absolutely no problem sharing stuff, either with the people who comes to us for internship or, my colleagues, etc., because I know that the way I share it, when I'm going to see the result, it's going to motivate me to push back up the boundaries again. So it's a continuous process of learning, being consistent and disciplined. And it's tough.
Wow.
But, what else is there to try?
Wow. Well, Mahefa, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you've shared with us. I'm sure the audience will get incredible value from our discussion. Wishing you the best for your personal, professional projects. And, thank you again.
Man, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I really admire people who create. I guess if I was an architect, I would be like an industrial engineer who creates stuff for people to create stuff, So congratulations on the success that you've had on your podcast. Keep grinding. It makes a lot of difference on the media sector, on the young people. It inspires a lot of us. And yeah, keep bringing those amazing guests, man. Thank you for having me.